So Yamaha just announced the R9 on October 9th, and already it's one of the most hated sport bikes Yamaha has ever built. And it's not even released to the public yet. Let's unpack it because I think a lot of you guys are confused about the bike, or you've just never been to a track and you don't understand how to utilize the R9, because when I look at it, I'm like, this is a dope machine. So let's backtrack 4 years. Yamaha discontinues the R6. A lot of people are disappointed. They don't want a race version only. They want a street version, obviously, because, you know, we want to do squid shit. But the problem with that is Euro 5 and the emissions and a lot of R&D to try to make the Yamaha R6 with Euro 5. That disappointed a lot of people, including myself. The R6 was my first bike. I love that bike. I still have one right now. It is a track-only R6 that I have, but even if I were to buy one right now, it would take me forever to find a good deal because the prices on R6s, it's gone up. It comes with anything, right? Supply and demand. There's a lot of demand for the R6 and not a lot of good supply out there. When you find a mint one, good luck trying to pay around 5,000 bucks, which is actually what I paid for my 2009, and you guys saw that in previous videos. In any case, let's just end the R6 there. It's never coming back. Yamaha even stated when they released the R9 that this is not a replacement for the R6. R6 is leaving Supersport World Championships, which is World Superbike if you follow Superbike. The Supersport class was once dominated by the R6, but now it's dominated by the Panigale V2, which is, I think it's a cheater bike. The Panigale V2 is closer to 1000cc than it is a 600cc. But this is not about the Panigale or the R6. This is about the R9. I remember when the R7 came out, how disappointed I was that it was just an MT-07 with fairings, because that's almost true. If you ever ridden the MT-07, I own the FZ version. It's horrendous. The suspension is too soft. A lot of people had to stiffen it up. I know a lot of people raced with it in the twin or super twin class, obviously with some success. Otherwise, Yamaha wouldn't have given us the R7. Now, the R7, the only thing that I think is different from the MT-07 to the R7, besides the fairings, it's the ergonomics. It feels very similar to an R6, and that's where my disappointment came in, because I really wanted to like the R7, and the problem with the R7, even after a flash, you guys, if you watch any of my videos, you guys saw me ride Nate's stock R7 and be really disappointed, and then we put a full exhaust on it. He got it flashed, and I rode it again, and I started to like it and understand it for what it is. But at the end of the day, I still don't really like the R7, and the R7 has like a love-hate. I don't know, the R7 just leaves you wanting more, which goes back to the complaint of other people like me who really wanted the R6. We would say things like, why don't you just put fairings on the MT-09 and give us the R9? And Yamaha did that, but people are freaking disappointed in this bike. And I don't think people have a good reason to be disappointed. I don't think the hate that the R9 is getting is deserved. I think the R9 is a great motorcycle, and I'm going to explain, but let's get into what the R9 is. A lot of people are calling it the MT-09 with fairings. I would agree to a certain extent, right? The engine is the MT-09. There's no doubt about that. Even Yamaha says there's no changes from the MT-09 to the R9 besides the fact that it has a different final gear ratio, meaning front sprocket, rear sprocket is different, obviously to achieve a higher top speed. That's what I'm going to assume. Okay, let's look at the similarities. Basically, not that much. The swing arm is the same. The wheels, I think, are different. The wheels on the R9 actually look a lot like the wheels from the R6. Let's look at the body styling. It looks like the R7, yes, but it has winglets. And I think maybe Yamaha did this to save money, because when we're talking about the price point, $12,499 MSRP, that is pretty damn good. A lot of people aren't calling this a super sport, but again, if you look at the power numbers, which is another concern for a lot of people, they're saying, oh, it doesn't have the power that a 600cc has. Have you guys ever looked at the dyno chart for a Yamaha R6? I think the most I've ever seen with a flash is probably like 122 horsepower and something like 47 pound-feet of torque. And if you look at what's comparable today at $11,400 or $300, you can get a non-ABS Kawasaki ZX6R 636. And if you look at those dyno numbers from a flash, it's about 122 horsepower and 47, 48 pound-feet of torque, which makes sense, right? Inline 4, 636 cc's, 599 cc's, or whatever the Yamaha's R6 cc's are. They both make similar power and torque and probably at a similar rev range. But have you ever looked at an MT-09's dyno sheets? I did some digging online and I found some people with MT-09 dyno sheets that got up to 115 horsepower and 70 pound-feet of torque. That's over 20 pound-feet more torque than the 600cc equivalent. Now, it is down about 7 horsepower, but these bikes weren't really made to go straight, were they? And is 7 horsepower really that much? Like, so much that we hate it and we say, the R9 is underpowered, it's slow. Somebody commented, imagine getting beat by a CF Moto or a RS660. The RS660, in my not so humble opinion, would get smoked by the Yamaha R9 just by torque numbers alone. And that bike is priced pretty similarly to the R9, and some versions are actually more expensive than the current R9's MSRP. I made this video to sort of defend Yamaha for the Yamaha R9. A lot of people are just giving it crap, and again, it's not deserved. If the 600cc screamers are going away, I think Yamaha did good by making the R9. They're using a little bit of marketing to try to catch us with their gravity molded frame. That's actually not new technology, but I get it. They're trying to do a sales tactic where they say this is the lightest frame that's ever been on a Yamaha Super Sport, which sure, but maybe it's like, oh, a pound or two difference because it has 1 or 2 less welds. Gravity molding is not new. Basically melt aluminum and then they pour it into a mold and they let gravity just do the work for them. So it's a very common thing that a lot of manufacturers do, especially in the automotive industry and like the electric bike or electric scooter, electric type of frame type of industry. They do like a heat treating process and then they sandblast it to clean it up. But yes, it is definitely lighter, and the things that they add to it structurally it makes these things super strong and super light, essentially. Now, while we're still kind of on the topic of 600cc, if you look at the ZX6R, the 636, it's virtually been unchanged for a long time. It still has the really old ride by throttle cables. Ride-by-wire is electronic, and for some reason, Kawasaki can't give us ride-by-wire on the ZX6R, but we have it on the ZX10R. Now, what's significant about ride-by-wire is it's a lot easier to install something like an auto blip, which gives you the ability to clutchless downshift. If you've ever been on the track, again, like it just goes back to like riding these bikes the way they're meant to be ridden. Having auto blip, it's a freaking game changer. You don't have to blip the throttle yourself, disrupting the front of the bike. It lets you focus on coming into that turn really hot, being on the brakes, downshifting, and then taking that apex. That's the beauty of auto blip. I don't know why people say they don't want it, they don't care for it, but that's one of the gripes that I have of the ZX6R 636. Now, guess what bike has auto blip? Yes, the Yamaha R9. Again, something that I look for when I'm looking for a motorcycle, let alone a super sport. Even though they're not calling this a true super sport, I think the Yamaha R9 is a super sport. Now, in terms of other electronics, Yamaha through the kitchen sink at the R9 has a 6-axis IMU, a 9-mode traction control system, which consists of a 3-mode slide control system, 3-mode lift control system, and a 3-mode brake control system. And if you're not into electronics, you can turn it off. Now, while we're still on the brake control system, Yamaha opted for Brembo's dilemmas, a Brembo master cylinder, 320mm rotors, and stainless brake lines. The stopping power on the R9 is immense. They got rid of their Yamaha brakes and they opted for something that works really, really well. Styling is, I can see this. A lot of people don't like how it looks, which is fine. I personally don't like the look of MV Agustas. A lot of people love them. If you're an IMK fan, you probably you know, I'm not gonna go there. Now, the aerodynamics was also updated for this bike. They're saying it's one of the most aerodynamic super sports ever built by Yamaha. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard. Now let's talk chassis. The R9 is on a brand new frame. So the chassis and geometry, I heard it's closer to the R1. Only time will tell because I don't have one. I've never sat on one. And again, I don't know why you guys are hating on the R9. Y'all haven't ridden it yet. Like, we're all in the same boat of like speculating what the R9 is going to be like. But I think a lot of people are just forgetting, like, this is a torque monster. When people were talking about they should just slap some fairings on the MT-09, it's because the MT-09 is known for being a torque monster. I had one. I had the FZ variant again of the 09, and that thing, it was a beast. I loved riding it around. It was a fun, naked, hooligan type of motorcycle. And if the R9 is anything like the MT-09, the R9 is gonna be a beast. There's absolutely no reason any of you guys should be complaining about the power output of the MT-09. Oh wait, I mean R9, same bike, right? None. If you're not complaining about the MT-09, there is no reason to be complaining about the R9 unless you just don't like the styling. This bike has everything and more than the R6. I'm with Yamaha on this. It's not going to replace the R6. The R6 is iconic. It's a legendary motorcycle. Again, my first bike. I still own one. I absolutely love the R6. But I also love the R9 because of what they're giving us. And the MSRP is, it's awesome. 12 and a half grand. You get a slipper clutch, up and down quick shifter. You get 7 horsepower less than you would a ZX6R, but you get over 20 pound-feet of torque more than the ZX6R. It has the cross-plane crank. Now, if you guys don't know much about the cross-plane crank, Yamaha has been using the cross-plane crank for a long time. The cross-plane crank was used in the M1, the GP variant of the R1. A lot of you guys think the R1 is... The R1 does not race in MotoGP. The bikes that race in GP are prototype motorcycles. Now that we got that out of the way, Yamaha has been running the crossplane for years. Yes, it's underpowered compared to the V4 variant, right? They get a choice of 2 engines in the premier class of GP. They get the inline 4, also known as the crossplane inline 4, or they get the V4. Suzuki and Honda have been running the V4 for a long time, and Yamaha, I think this next year they decided they're no longer going to run the inline 4 and they're going to go for the V4 because it's just the V4. If you've ever ridden a V4, I've owned the V4S and I own an RS V4. The power delivery on an RS V4 or just any V4 in general, it's so linear and so easy to control, but the torque that it gives out it's insane. It's intense. It's a lot. When I'm at the track and I'm riding my R6, I have to think about what gear I want to put it in because, again, it just does not have the torque that something like a V4 or crossplane inline 4 from the R1 has. When I was riding my R1M at the track, you know, I can go around a corner and just keep it in second or third the whole track day because of the amount of torque that bike delivered down low. I think it was Enzo Ferrari that said, horsepower sells cars, torque wins races. And in this instance, I couldn't agree more. I think the reason the Panigale V2 just dominates is not necessarily the horsepower, because the way they limit that bike is by giving it a lower maximum RPM. So they make Ducati tune their bikes to have a lower RPM, but if you know anything about torque kicks in, you know, at very, very low RPMs. And I think that's why the V2 wins a lot of races. No, it didn't win this year in Moto America, but it's Moto America. Like, relax. Like, in America in general, I think only 6% of motorcycle riders actually watch motorcycle racing. I bet you guys, I bet 95% of you guys can't tell me who won the Super Sport class in Moto America. And maybe like 60% of y'all can't tell me who won Superbike. In any regard, the Yamaha R9 has torque. And I think that's the torque that's going to make it really competitive against the Panigale V2, at least in the world Superbike Super Sport series. I don't know, there's not much else to say about the R9. I just wanted to make a video and try to defend this bike because a lot of us have been asking for Yamaha to give us an R9 for years, ever since they got rid of the R6. I think people are like, okay, what's next? They gave us the R7, and people like me are like, oh, that's a really crappy replacement, Yamaha. Like that, I can't believe you guys got rid of the R6 and gave us the R7. You guys should have just given us the MT09 and called it an R9. And even back then, it is just, I just made the mistake of thinking that the R7 was a replacement for the R6, and it clearly is not, even though it feels similar. If you close your eyes and sit on an R7, and then close your eyes and sit on an R6, it's so similar. It's not until you start riding the R7 where you're like, oh, this sucks. But I don't think that's going to be the case with the R9. I think you're going to sit on the R9 and you're going to get the same feeling that you do get on the R6. And then when you hit that throttle, I think it's going to be like the torque is just going to be so immense that people are just going to not have a choice but to be really, really happy with the R9. I think we all need to stop complaining about the R9. I'm not complaining about it. I love it. I absolutely love the Yamaha R9, and I will defend it till, till something else comes out. A lot of Europeans are disappointed with the R9 because, this is their replacement for the R1. And I get that. I completely understand. But at the price point that Yamaha is offering this bike, I think it's worth every penny. I think we should give it a chance. Nobody's ridden one, not here in the States anyway. If you've ridden one and you hate it, fine. You can hate on it. I haven't. I have no reason to hate on it. I'll agree that the body styling is it's meh. But, it just is what it is. I mean, just some bikes are for some people, some are not. I love the R6, the old version with the Hornet style headlights. Some people don't. Some people like the baby R1 look. It's subjective, but that doesn't take away from what the motorcycle is. And the motorcycle is a beast. It's a beast. 70 pound-feet of 70 pound-feet of torque. Okay, 115 horsepower. That's from the MT09. Pack that into the R9. I think we have a winner, Yamaha. Great fucking job. Great fucking job. That's all I got. Yeah. R9. Hot take. I love it.